day, everybody. Welcome to another session of the BOSS 405 class, Business Policy and Strategy 1. Today, we are now in the study session 3, in which we are going to look at industry analysis. Industry analysis. This session is concerned with outlining Porter's 5 forces framework that shows how we can apply competition by predicting the industry profitability and develop the strategy. At the end of this session, the learning outcomes are for us to be able to outline the definition of industry, environment, and fundamentals of industry analysis. Also, we must be able to explain the Porter's 5 forces framework. And lastly, to be able to discuss the source of industry competitiveness. So what is an industry? An industry can refer to as a group or collection of firms that produce the same types of products or offer the same services or serve the same set of customers. So we have the banking industry, the telecommunication industry, the oil and gas industry, etc. Industry analysis is a business function completed by business owners and other individuals to assess the current business environment in order to understand various economic pieces of the marketplace. Very key to industry analysis is the environmental analysis, which can be defined as the process of scanning the environment to be able to identify the firm's strength, weakness, and also identify opportunities and threats, which has a code name SWOT, SWOT, where S is strength, W is weaknesses, O is opportunities, and T is threats. These are very important to be able to distinguish the factors that are available in the internal or external industry. For a firm to operate successfully in the business environment, it must form good relationship with basic set of players in the industry. There are 3, which include the customers, the suppliers, and the competitors. And this set of factors or players are what is called the industry environment. We now look at profit, value, demand, and competition. Profit, also known as net income, can be defined as the amount of earnings that exceed expenses for a period. That is, it can be seen as the amount of income left over after all the necessary and matched expenses are subtracted for the period. In contrast, value is created when the price the customer is willing to pay for a product exceeds the cost incurred by the firm. Invariably, value is created when a customer is willing to pay for whatever service the company is offering. To create value, profit must be earned by the firm in the industry. And there are basically 3 factors that are responsible for this. Number 1, the value of the product to the customer. That is, if the customer values the product, you can create profit from value. Number 2, the intensity of the competition in the industry. How intense the competition is in an industry will also determine the level of profit to be gained through value. Number 3 is the bargaining power of producers relative to their suppliers and buyers. Demand is an economic principle referring to a customer's desire and willingness to pay a price for a specific good or service at an estimated period of time. While competition can be defined as the economic rivalry in which every seller in the industry tries to get what other sellers are seeking at the same time, such as the sales, the profit, and the market share, by offering the best practicable combination of price, quality and services. We now move to industry analysis. Analyzing industry attractiveness. One industry is more attractive than the other, and the industry attractiveness basically is the presence or absence of threats as a result of the industry forces. The greater the threat posed by an industry force, the less attractive the industry becomes. Small businesses, in particular, should attempt to seek out markets in which the threats are low and the attractiveness is high. To understand industry attractiveness, there are various tools offered by business scholars. We have the SWOT analysis, the McKinsey matrix, and most importantly, the one that we'll focus here is the Porter's 5 forces. The Porter's 5 forces was funded by Michael E. Porter, an Harvard professor, in which he listed 5 basic forces in that their collective strength determines the ultimate profit potential of the industry, where profit potential is measured in terms of long-term return on investment capital. Michael Porter states that the goal of competitive strategy for a business unit in an industry is to find a position in the industry where the company can best defend itself against these competitive forces and can influence them in its favor. These 5 forces are ease of entry, power of suppliers, power of buyers, availability of substitutes, and competitor rivalry. Although there are other modifications of the theory in which the availability of complement has been added, but that will be treated in another session. Let us now take them one by one. Ease of entry. What does it mean? Ease of entry refers to how easy or difficult it is for a new firm to begin competing in the industry. For example, in the banking industry, where we have already established firms in that particular industry, how easy it is for a new entrant to enter the banking industry. Obviously, the banking industry has a very high threat of ease of entry because it's not easy to enter. So the ease of entry into an industry is important because it determines the likelihood of a company that a company will face new competitors. So if in an industry your entrance will be welcomed by those who are already in the industry, then it is very easy. But there are times where a particular firm will enter an industry and those who are already established there will kick the particular firm out. That means the ease of entry is very, very low in that particular instance. In industries that are easy to enter, sources of competitive advantage tends to wane quickly. On the other hand, in industries that are difficult to enter, sources of competitive advantage last longer, and firms also tend to benefit from having a constant set of competitors. The ease of entry into industry depends on 2 factors. Number 1, the reaction of existing competitors to new entrants. Number 2, the barriers to market entry that prevail in the industry. The banking example is another very good example. To enter the banking industry, you need over 100 billion naira to be able to even register your name. That makes the ease of entry very difficult. And the major barriers to market entry will include 1, economies of scale; 2, high capital requirements like the banking industry example; 3, switching cost of the customer, that is the cost with which a customer will want to port or move from one product or industry to the other; 4, the limited access to the channels of distribution. The retailer, the wholesaler. If the channels are very, very limited, okay, it determines whether there will be ease of entry or not. 5, the high degree of product differentiation. That is how customers can be able to see differences in the product. And lastly, number 6, the restrictive government policy. That is that for ease of entry. The next point under the Porter's 5 forces of competition is the power of suppliers. Who is a supplier and how do we mean? A supplier is that particular third party that brings in input into the firm. That is, suppliers can gain bargaining power within an industry through a number of different situations. For example, suppliers gain power when an industry relies on just a few suppliers where there are no substitutes available for the supplied products. Supplier power can affect relationship between a small business and its customers, and as a firm you must make sure you reduce the power of your suppliers. That is, you have various people that can supply you the product, then you'll be able to have leverage over your suppliers. The third one under the 5 forces of competition by Michael Porter is the power of buyers. This is the reverse situation that occur in the power of supplier. Powerful buyers can exert pressure on businesses by demanding low prices, high quality, or additional services, or by playing competitors against each other. The power of buyers tend to increase when single customers account for large volumes of business products. We now move to the availability of substitutes. All firms in an industry are competing in the broad sense, with industries producing substitute products. Substitutes limit the potential return of an industry by placing a ceiling on the prices firms in the industry can profitably charge. If there are substitutes for products, it makes it difficult to have industry attractiveness. Porter explained that product substitutions occur when a small business customer comes to believe that a similar product can perform the same function at a better price. That is when substitution occur. Lastly, on the Porter's 5 forces is the customer rivalry, a competitor's rivalry rather. The competitor rivalry actually is the battle that is between various firms in the industry. Competitive battles can take the form of price wars, advertising campaigns, new product innovation or introduction, or expanded service offering, all of which can reduce the profitability of the firm within the industry. I will refer you to the notes so that we can see the model according to Porter for further explanation. Lastly, we'll look at the applying the industry analysis. From what we have discussed, we can easily apply those analyses in any business industry. The first stage of industry analysis is to identify the key elements of the industry structure. Okay, it requires us to identify which firm are the producers, who are the customers, who are the input suppliers, and the producers of substitutes. Then we now examine some of the key structural characteristics of each groups. This can be applied whenever we are analyzing any industry in Nigeria or anywhere in the world. And we have industries and markets. We have to first of all clarify what is meant by industry. We want to define that industry is a group of firms that supplies similar market or satisfy similar customers, as we have mentioned in our previous session. I will urge us to look at the importance of industry analysis, which is performance, positioning, understanding opportunity and threats, knowing the internal preferences. Then the advantage of industry analysis are very critical for any business professional looking to stay competitive. We must be able to apply this analysis for us to be able to understand the industry. In summary, we have understood the concept of industry analysis, what profit is, what value is, what demand is, and what competition is. And we have briefly also mentioned SWOT and also Porter's 5 forces, and also the importance of industry analysis and market. Thank you very much for listening to this third session. Hope to see you in the next session.